It was a typical Saturday evening at a bustling downtown restaurant, filled with the chatter of friends catching up over dinner, couples on date nights, and families celebrating special occasions. But in the midst of this vibrant atmosphere, a storm was brewing, one that would challenge everything we thought we knew about trust, bias, and the impact of a single moment. As the golden light streamed through the windows, illuminating the laughter and clinking glasses, no one could have predicted the tension that was about to unfold. Meet a young teen, full of dreams and aspirations, who had simply come to enjoy a meal with friends. With a contagious smile and an infectious sense of humor, he was looking forward to a night of good food and even better company. He was just like any other kid, trying to navigate the complexities of adolescence, balancing schoolwork, friendships, and the trials of growing up. Little did he know that this seemingly ordinary outing would spiral into an extraordinary nightmare. As the group settled into their booth, the atmosphere was light and carefree. They joked, shared stories, and relished the delicious aromas wafting from the kitchen. But soon, an unsettling tension began to creep into the air. The manager, a stern figure who watched over the dining area with an eagle eye, suddenly directed his attention to the group. It was a shift that went unnoticed by most, but not by one of the friends. He sensed something was off, a tension thick enough to cut with a knife, and it filled him with unease. Then, the moment everyone dreaded arrived. Without warning, the manager approached the table, his face a mask of accusation. "You need to leave," he declared, his voice echoing in the suddenly silent restaurant. Confusion washed over the young teen and his friends. "What? Why?" they stammered, disbelief etched on their faces. The manager's glare turned icy as he pointed a finger, accusing him of something no one could fathom. The shock of the moment rippled through the group, and whispers began to rise from the surrounding tables, curiosity mixed with judgment. It became clear that a baseless assumption had taken root, igniting a whirlwind of emotions, anger, humiliation, confusion. This was more than a misunderstanding. It was a heartbreaking illustration of how prejudice can stain an innocent moment. Friends rallied around him, their laughter fading into stunned silence. The atmosphere shifted from one of celebration to one of disbelief and outrage. How could this be happening? The questions swirled, each more damning than the last, as everyone grappled with the reality of the accusation. As the commotion grew, so did the tension. The young teen, his heart pounding in his chest, felt the weight of every eye in the room upon him. The laughter of the evening had morphed into whispers of judgment, and with each passing second, he felt more isolated. The manager's relentless accusations seemed to drown out any plea for clarity or understanding. No one was willing to listen. What had started as a simple outing had turned into a spectacle of injustice, and the young teen was trapped in a narrative he never asked to be a part of. The restaurant's patrons began to murmur among themselves, sharing their opinions and reactions, some siding with the manager, others showing support for the group. The young teen's friends felt helpless, their frustration boiling over as they tried to articulate their disbelief. "This isn't right. He didn't do anything," they shouted, but their voices were drowned out by the growing tension. The emotions ran high, creating an explosive mix of anger and fear, and the atmosphere was thick with an unsettling energy. Amid the chaos, a glimmer of hope appeared when a kind stranger intervened, stepping forward to question the manager's actions. "Wait, what's going on here? You can't just kick them out without an explanation," she insisted, her voice cutting through the noise like a beacon of light in the darkness. Her words sparked a moment of pause, allowing everyone to take a collective breath. Perhaps there was still a chance for understanding, for truth to shine through the thick fog of prejudice. But the tension was far from resolved. As the conversation escalated, it became clear that the young teen and his friends were caught in a web of misunderstanding and bias, leaving them grappling with the harsh reality of a world that often judges too quickly. Every word exchanged felt like a punch, and the teen could feel the weight of their disbelief bearing down on him, threatening to crush his spirit. Would anyone truly listen to his side of the story? Just as the situation began to reach a boiling point, the restaurant door swung open, and in walked an unexpected ally, someone who had been watching from a distance. With a calm demeanor and an aura of authority, this person approached the scene, ready to uncover the truth. Would their presence bring clarity to the chaotic moment, or would it only deepen the divide? As the camera zooms in on the faces filled with uncertainty, one question lingers: what will happen next? The truth is waiting just beneath the surface, and the revelations that follow promise to leave you speechless. Stay tuned for the unfolding drama that could change everything and challenge the very foundations of how we see one another in a world that often overlooks the humanity in us all. As the tension in the restaurant hung thick in the air, the young teen struggled to catch his breath. He could feel the weight of judgment pressing down on him, each second stretching into what felt like an eternity. His mind raced, recalling the countless instances when he'd been made to feel less than because of the color of his skin. Why was it always him? Why was it always people who didn't know him, didn't understand him, jumping to conclusions? Growing up in a neighborhood where whispers of prejudice and bias were common, he had always been aware of the struggles that accompanied his identity. He had learned early on to navigate these murky waters, developing a sense of resilience. But here, in this restaurant, all that training felt inadequate. The fear of being misunderstood threatened to drown him in despair. What he wanted more than anything was for someone to see him for who he truly was: a regular kid, just trying to enjoy a meal with friends, not a criminal. Meanwhile, the kind stranger who had intervened stood firm beside him, her presence radiating an air of authority. She was a middle-aged woman with a warm yet determined expression, her eyes filled with a fierce empathy. The restaurant staff, sensing the shift in power dynamics, hesitated, unsure how to proceed. This stranger had disrupted the narrative that had already begun to unfold, and everyone could feel it. "Why don't we take a step back and figure out what's really going on here?" she asked the manager, her voice steady. "This young man deserves a chance to speak. You can't just throw him out without giving him the opportunity to explain himself." Her challenge hung in the air like a gauntlet thrown down, daring the manager to reconsider his actions. The manager, taken aback by her boldness, shifted uncomfortably. For a moment, his eyes flickered with doubt. But then, as if he had found a sense of resolve, he straightened his posture. "I'm not letting this go," he retorted, his tone defensive. "We have a responsibility to protect our customers and our business." He looked around the restaurant, seeking affirmation from the patrons who were still watching intently, eager to see how this drama would unfold. The young teen's friends exchanged glances, feeling a mixture of relief and disbelief. They had been powerless until now, and the stranger's courage had ignited a spark of hope. Yet, even with this newfound support, the sense of unease lingered in the air. Would their collective voices be enough to drown out the harmful assumptions? In the background, the noise of the restaurant faded as the confrontation escalated. The conversations of other diners became a mere hum, and time seemed to slow down. The young teen could feel his heart pounding in his chest, a steady rhythm echoing the escalating tension. He glanced at his friends, their expressions a mix of anger and confusion, and he realized that they were all experiencing this moment together, bound by a shared sense of injustice. But the deeper story lay hidden beneath the surface, intertwined with the complexities of their lives. Each of them carried their own struggles and triumphs. The young teen had dreams of becoming an artist, pouring his heart and soul into every piece he created. His sketches often reflected the world around him, capturing the beauty and pain of his experiences. His friends, too, had ambitions and aspirations, each facing their own battles, in a society that sometimes felt unforgiving. As the discussion continued, the atmosphere shifted. Patrons began to express their opinions more vocally, some siding with the manager, while others supported the young teen. A couple of diners stood up, shaking their heads in disbelief at the manager's accusations. "This is ridiculous," one man shouted, his voice carrying across the room. "You can't just accuse someone without proof." The young teen felt a rush of gratitude wash over him. The support was overwhelming, and yet he couldn't shake the feeling that the moment was precariously balanced. In the midst of this uproar, the young teen couldn't help but wonder about the manager's motivations. Was he genuinely concerned for the restaurant's safety, or was this rooted in something deeper, preconceived notions that had been etched into his mind over time? It was a question that lingered like a shadow, refusing to leave him. What had he seen in the young teen that had led to such a quick judgment? This was a moment that could define not just his evening, but potentially his entire life. The kind stranger, sensing the rising tensions, turned to the young teen. "Can you tell us what happened?" she asked gently, her voice encouraging. "Just speak from your heart. Your story matters." Her words were like a lifeline, grounding him in the chaotic storm of emotions swirling around him. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her encouragement wrap around him like a warm blanket. I didn't do anything," he stammered, his voice shaky but resolute. "We came here to eat and hang out, just like everyone else. I didn't do anything wrong." The words tumbled out, each one a plea for understanding. He glanced around the room, meeting the eyes of strangers who were now invested in his story. There was a palpable shift, a sense that they were ready to listen. As he recounted the evening, the tension began to ease, if only slightly. He spoke about the laughter shared at the table, the anticipation of the meal, and the moment the manager approached them. He described confusion, the sudden shift from joy to panic. The patrons listened intently, their faces reflecting a range of emotions: sympathy, outrage, disbelief. In that moment, he felt a connection to them, a bond forged through shared humanity. Yet, the atmosphere was still fraught with uncertainty. The manager's face hardened as the young teen spoke, unwilling to concede. "You're just a kid. You don't know what really goes on in the world," he interjected, trying to regain control of the narrative. "I have a duty to protect my business." His refusal to back down stoked the flames of anger among the patrons, who were increasingly vocal in their support for the young teen. Just then, the young teen noticed a figure standing at the entrance of the restaurant, watching the unfolding drama with keen interest. It was a local journalist, known for her advocacy and dedication to covering stories of injustice in the community. She had a reputation for being fair and thorough, always seeking to uncover the truth behind the headlines. The young teen felt a surge of hope. If anyone could shed light on this situation, it would be her. With determination in her stride, she approached the group, her camera ready to capture the moment. "What's happening here?" she asked, her voice calm but authoritative. The room shifted again, the atmosphere crackling with a newfound energy. The young teen's heart raced at the thought of his story being told, of having a chance to be heard in a world that often silenced voices like his. The kind stranger explained the situation to the journalist, her words carrying the weight of the night's events. The journalist nodded, her eyes darting between the young teen and the manager, assessing the tension that permeated the room. "I want to hear from all sides," she said, her tone measured. "Let's get to the bottom of this." Her commitment to uncovering the truth felt like a small victory, a flicker of hope in a dimly lit room. As the journalist began her questioning, the young teen felt a rush of emotions: fear, relief, and a lingering sense of vulnerability. Would his words matter? Would the world finally understand? He knew that this moment could change everything, and he was determined to make it count. He took another deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. The manager, now cornered by the sudden influx of voices demanding justice, shifted uncomfortably. He was losing control of the narrative, and the young teen could see the cracks forming in his facade. Yet, he was unwilling to admit defeat. "I have a reputation to uphold," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "You can't just walk in here and expect me to let this go." The confrontation continued, voices rising and falling, each side attempting to assert their version of truth. But beneath the surface, the conflict was more profound than a simple misunderstanding. It was a reflection of society's ongoing struggle with bias, the weight of stereotypes pressing down on individuals who simply wanted to live their lives. As the discussions raged on, the young teen felt a sense of urgency building within him. This was not just about him, it was about all those who had been wrongly accused, misjudged, and marginalized. It was about standing up against a system that often failed to see the humanity in those who looked different. He realized that this moment was not just about seeking vindication. It was about sparking a conversation, challenging the status quo, and inspiring others to join the fight for justice. With renewed determination, he spoke up again, his voice rising above clamor. "This isn't just about me. It's about how we treat each other, how we see each other. We need to do better. We can't let fear dictate our actions." His words rang out, striking a chord with those present. For a fleeting moment, Silence enveloped the room as everyone absorbed the weight of his statement. But just as hope began to blossom, the manager dug in his heels, unwilling to acknowledge the truth. "You're just a kid. What do you know about the world?" he snapped, his defensiveness only fueling the fire of anger among the patrons. The young teen felt his heart drop. How could anyone be so blind to the pain they were causing? The struggle for validation and understanding seemed endless. With the atmosphere crackling with tension, the journalist made a decisive move. "I'm going to document everything," she announced, her camera poised to capture the unfolding drama. "This story deserves to be told, and the truth needs to come to light." Her commitment to justice resonated through the room, and the young teen felt a surge of hope once more. But as the discussions continued, the reality of the situation loomed larger than ever. The young teen knew that, even with the journalist's help, the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. There would be those who would refuse to listen, who would turn a blind eye to the truth, and who would remain steadfast in their biases. But he was ready to fight, not just for himself, but for all those who had been marginalized and silenced. As the night wore on, the restaurant became a microcosm of the larger world, filled with complex emotions, divided opinions, and a longing for understanding. Conversations shifted from anger to empathy, and slowly, people began to share their own experiences with bias and discrimination. The atmosphere transformed, becoming a tapestry of voices, united in a common struggle for justice and truth. Yet, amidst the solidarity, the unresolved tension remained palpable. Would the manager finally relent and acknowledge his mistake? Would the young teen find the closure he desperately sought? The answers remained just out of reach, hanging like a fragile thread, ready to snap at any moment. The young teen glanced around the room, meeting the eyes of strangers who had become allies in his fight for justice. In that moment, he felt a flicker of hope. Together, they were creating a space for dialogue, a chance for understanding that transcended fear and bias. He could see the possibility of change, shimmering in the distance, a beacon guiding them toward a future where empathy and compassion would reign. But the clock was ticking, and as the discussions continued, the weight of uncertainty loomed large. The young teen knew that the outcome of this night would ripple through his life in ways he couldn't yet comprehend. He could feel the tension tightening, and he wondered how much longer they could hold on to this fragile moment of solidarity. With the journalist documenting every word, every emotion, the stage was set for a revelation that could change everything. The final pieces of the puzzle were yet to fall into place, and the young teen felt a sense of anticipation mixed with trepidation. What lay ahead was still shrouded in mystery, and the truth was waiting, just out of reach, as the night unfolded into an unexpected crescendo of emotions and revelations. As the young teen prepared to speak once more, he felt a surge of determination. No matter the outcome, he knew this moment was significant. It was about standing up for himself and countless others who had faced similar struggles. It was about igniting a spark that could challenge the narrative and foster change. With that resolve, he stepped forward, ready to confront the heart of the matter head-on. But before he could utter another word, the sound of a phone ringing shattered the tense atmosphere. All heads turned as the manager hastily answered the call, his expression shifting from frustration to confusion. The buzz of anticipation hung thick in the air as everyone waited to hear what would transpire next. The young teen's heart raced, wondering if this interruption might change the course of the evening. The manager's voice was low, almost inaudible, but the change in his demeanor was evident. As he listened intently, his eyes widened, and a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. The room held its breath, captivated by this unexpected twist. Was it possible that the truth was finally on the verge of being unveiled? The seconds stretched into what felt like an eternity as the manager hung up the phone, a storm of emotions brewing behind his stoic exterior. What new information had he received? The air crackled with anticipation, and the young teen felt a rush of adrenaline. This could be the moment that shifts everything, the revelation that might bring clarity to the chaos. Yet, even as hope surged within him, a sense of foreboding lingered in the air. The conflict was far from over, and as the manager cleared his throat, preparing to address the gathering crowd, the young teen knew that whatever came next would change the course of the night, leaving everyone on the edge of their seats, yearning for resolution, but aware that the journey to Understanding was just beginning. The manager cleared his throat, his eyes darting around the room, searching for some semblance of support as he prepared to speak. The tension hung thick in the air, every person present anticipating what he would say next. The young teen's heart raced, a mix of hope and anxiety swirling within him. He felt as though they were all teetering on the edge of a cliff, ready to plunge into the unknown. "Oh, everyone," the manager began, his voice shaky. "I just received a call from the police. They're on their way here." The words fell like a heavy stone into the stillness of the restaurant, shattering the fragile atmosphere. Gasps echoed around the room, and the young teen's stomach dropped. The dread he had tried to shake off came crashing back like a wave. Why did it have to escalate to this? He exchanged frantic glances with his friends, who were visibly shaken. Would the police take the manager's word as gospel, ignoring the truth of what had really happened? The possibility of being wrongfully accused and arrested loomed over him like a dark cloud, overshadowing the support he had just begun to feel from the patrons around him. The kind stranger, still standing beside him, stepped forward with a fierce determination in her eyes. "That's exactly what we're trying to avoid," she exclaimed, her voice rising above the murmurs. "You can't just call the police without understanding the full story. This young man deserves to be heard, not judged." Her passionate defense echoed throughout the restaurant, rallying others to her cause. But as people began to voice their support, the manager's face hardened, a flicker of resolve igniting behind his eyes. "Look, I don't want trouble," he replied, attempting to regain control. "But we have a duty to ensure the safety of everyone here. The police will sort this out." The way he said it suggested that he had already made up his mind about the young teen's guilt, and it felt like a betrayal of everything they had fought for just moments ago. Just then, the young teen noticed the local journalist moving closer, her camera focused intently on the unfolding drama. She was ready to capture every moment, and he felt a surge of gratitude. She would tell his story, and he had to believe that the truth would prevail. Yet deep down, a gnawing fear tugged at him. What if the police didn't care about the truth? What if they only saw a black teen standing in a restaurant, accused by a white manager? The atmosphere grew increasingly charged, and conversations buzzed around them, a cacophony of emotions. Some patrons supported the manager, arguing that calling the police was the only right course of action. Others rallied around the young teen, urging for calm and understanding. The divide felt insurmountable, the stakes higher than ever. The young teen took a deep breath, trying to center himself amid the chaos. He needed to stay focused, to find a way to articulate his innocence, and ensure that the truth emerged. Just then, he remembered something crucial: the restaurant's security cameras. They could provide the evidence needed to clear his name. He turned to the kind stranger, urgency fueling his words. "What about the cameras?" he blurted out. "They have to have footage of what really happened." The kind stranger's eyes lit up, and she nodded, clearly seeing the potential in his suggestion. "Yes, Cess. If we can access that footage, it could prove your innocence right away." The young teen felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. If they could show that he hadn't done anything wrong, perhaps it would force the manager to reconsider his accusations and maybe even change the narrative. But as they turned to confront the manager, ready to make the request, another twist jolted through the crowd. A commotion erupted at the entrance as several police officers arrived, their uniforms sharp and intimidating. The atmosphere shifted again, the air thick with tension, as people instinctively took a step back, creating a path for the officers. The manager, now filled with a mix of relief and determination, pointed toward the young teen. "That's him," he said, his voice rising with urgency. "He was causing a disturbance. You need to handle this." The young teen's heart raced at the accusation. Everything he had tried to communicate, all the support he had garnered, felt like it was crumbling in an instant. The officers stepped forward, assessing the scene. "What's going on here?" one of them asked, his tone authoritative yet calm. The kind stranger immediately interjected, her voice steady. "This young man has done nothing wrong. He's being unfairly accused, and we have witnesses who can vouch for him. You have to listen." The police exchanged glances, seemingly caught off guard by the fervor in the restaurant. The young teen seized the moment, his voice breaking through the chaos. "Please, Just look at the security footage. It will show I didn't do anything." His plea hung in the air. A desperate attempt to redirect the narrative. The lead officer hesitated, considering the situation. "All right, we'll take a look at the footage," he said slowly, clearly weighing the growing tension in the room. The young teen felt a surge of adrenaline. Maybe they still had a chance to reveal the truth. But just as hope surged again, the manager stepped in, his face flush with anger. "No, we can't just let this go. This is my restaurant, and I won't allow any troublemakers here." His outburst reverberated through the crowd, reigniting the sense of conflict that had begun to simmer down. The young teen could feel the room teetering on a knife's edge. The stakes were higher than ever, and everything hinged on the next few moments. The weight of so many eyes resting upon him felt suffocating. Would the officers take his side, or would they side with the manager's assumptions? With the officers' attention still on the manager, the young teen saw his opportunity slipping away. Time was running out, and he needed to act fast. "Please," he called out, his voice filled with emotion. "I'm just trying to enjoy a night out with my friends. I'm not a criminal. I deserve to be treated with respect." The room held its breath as the tension reached a boiling point. Suddenly, the manager's phone buzzed in his pocket, interrupting the charged atmosphere. He fumbled for it, his expression shifting as he glanced at the screen. Whatever message he saw, it made his face pale, and for a brief moment, the anger dissipated, replaced by something that looked like fear. "What's wrong?" the young teen's friend asked, sensing the change in the manager's demeanor. The eyes of the restaurant shifted back and forth between the two men, waiting for an answer, curiosity mixed with suspicion. "Nothing," the manager said quickly, but the tremor in his voice gave him away. I need to take this call." He turned abruptly, stepping away from the group, leaving the young teen and the onlookers in a state of confusion. As the manager walked away, a silence fell over the restaurant, tension lingering in the air like smoke after a fire. The young teen exchanged looks with his friends, and the kind stranger, their expressions mirroring his bewilderment. What had just happened? In that moment of uncertainty, the lead officer spoke up again, his tone now softer. "Let's see the footage," he said, gesturing toward the manager's office. "We need to get to the bottom of this." As they moved toward the office, the young teen's heart raced with a mixture of hope and anxiety. Would the footage reveal the truth he had been fighting for, or would it unravel into a nightmare? The path ahead was still murky, but with every step toward the manager's office, he felt the weight of 100 stories behind him, stories of injustice, misunderstanding, and a desperate longing for acceptance. Just as they reached the office door, the young teen heard a shout from the back of the restaurant. "Hey, wait!" A familiar voice broke through the chaos. It was another patron, a friend of the young teen's from school, pushing her way through the crowd. She was out of breath, eyes wide with urgency. "I have something to tell you." The young teen turned, surprised and curious. What could she possibly have to add? The atmosphere thickened with anticipation as they all looked at her, waiting for her to catch her breath and share her revelation. Whatever she had to say felt pivotal, like a key that might unlock the mystery surrounding the night's events. "I just got a text," she gasped, clearly shaken. "There's something you all need to know about the manager. It's not just about this incident." Her words hung in the air, shrouded in suspense, and the young teen could sense that they were on the brink of something monumental. The stakes had never felt higher, and as they awaited her next words, the shadows of uncertainty loomed larger than ever. What truths would emerge from the depths of this tangled situation? With the police officers and patrons alike watching intently, the young teen knew that whatever she revealed could change everything, propelling them all toward an unexpected climax that none could predict. The young teen felt the tension crackle in the air as his friend caught her breath, the weight of her words lingering like a thick fog. "What is it?" he urged, his heart pounding. "What do you know about the manager?" She looked around, clearly aware of the eyes on her, and leaned in closer, speaking in a hushed tone. "I overheard him talking to someone earlier. He was nervous, almost frantic. He said something about needing to keep a clean record for the restaurant, and how this incident could ruin everything. I don't think it's just about you. There's something more going on." The revelation sent a chill down the young teen's spine. What could possibly be at stake for the manager that warranted such desperation? It was as if the pieces of a larger puzzle were starting to come together, each fragment revealing a more complex truth. The crowd leaned in closer, their curiosity piqued, sensing that they were on the brink of an explosive climax. Before the young teen could process her words fully, the manager re-entered the scene. His demeanor noticeably changed. Gone was the anger. Instead, he appeared flustered, wiping his brow with the back of his hand. "What's going on here?" he demanded, his voice sharp yet shaky. The tension in the room thickened, everyone anticipating the confrontation that was about to unfold. "We're about to find out the truth," the kind stranger interjected, stepping forward with newfound courage. "Your actions tonight have consequences. This young man deserves to be treated fairly, and we need to understand why you're so intent on pushing him out." The manager opened his mouth to respond, but the lead police officer interjected. "We're here to investigate, and we need access to the security footage immediately." There was an air of authority in his tone, commanding respect from everyone present. The young teen felt a flicker of hope ignite again. Maybe they would finally see what had happened and set the record straight. As they all moved toward the manager's office, the young teen caught sight of his friends, their expressions a mix of anxiety and determination. They were all in this together, and he could feel their collective energy fueling him. This was their moment to reclaim their narrative, to ensure that the truth was heard loud and clear. The manager hesitated, glancing nervously at the officers. "Fine, let's just get this over with," he muttered, leading them into the dimly lit office. A large screen mounted on the wall flickered to life as he accessed the security footage. The room fell silent, everyone's eyes glued to the screen, anticipation palpable. As the footage played, the young teen's heart raced. There he was, standing at the counter just as he remembered. But then the scene shifted, revealing the moments that led to the altercation. The young teen watched in disbelief as the manager interacted with another patron just before the incident unfolded. The patron had leaned in, whispering something in the manager's ear, their expressions serious and conspiratorial. The young teen felt a knot tighten in his stomach as he saw the manager nod, the tension between them thickening. Then, just moments before he approached the counter, the other patron pointed directly at him. The manager's face contorted into one of alarm, and without hesitation, he had called security. It was all caught on camera, the moment everything spiraled out of control. "See? He was the one who set this in motion," the young teen shouted, pointing at the screen, his voice filled with urgency. The crowd murmured, shock washing over their faces as they processed the unfolding drama. The manager shifted uncomfortably, his facade cracking as the evidence became undeniable. But just as the atmosphere shifted from confusion to clarity, the unexpected happened. The door swung open, and a familiar face entered the restaurant, a figure from the young teen's past he hadn't expected to see. It was his old middle school teacher, someone who had always championed him and pushed him to strive for better. Her presence alone sent a ripple of recognition through the crowd. "Is everything all right here?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. The young teen felt an overwhelming wave of relief wash over him as he saw her. But then confusion set in. Why was she here now? What did she know? "I heard about the incident from one of the other teachers," she continued, her gaze scanning the room. "I just had to come and see for myself." Her eyes locked onto the manager, and for a moment, an unspoken understanding passed between them. The young teen felt the tension shift again, the weight of something unnameable hanging in the air. The officer, sensing the change in dynamics, stepped forward. "Do you have information about this incident?" he asked, clearly intrigued. The teacher hesitated, but then nodded slowly, her voice steady. "I do. I know the manager has been under a lot of pressure. The restaurant's business has been struggling, and I've heard him talk about making drastic changes to keep it afloat. He's been desperate to maintain his reputation." The manager shifted uncomfortably, his expression revealing a flicker of vulnerability for the first time. "It's not what you think. I didn't want this to escalate," he muttered, almost to himself. "But when I was told that a black teen was causing trouble, I panicked. I thought it would be easier to handle it quickly before it became a bigger issue." The young teen felt a wave of realization wash over him. The manager's actions stemmed not just from prejudice, but from a place of fear and desperation, a desire to protect his business at any cost. It didn't excuse the accusation, but it painted a fuller picture of the situation. The crowd reacted, some expressing sympathy, while others still grappled with the gravity of the situation. "You need to own up to your mistakes," the kind stranger challenged, her voice firm. "You've caused pain and fear in this young man's life. You can't just brush it aside." The tension in the room thickened again, and the young teen turned to the officer, feeling a mix of dread and anticipation. "So what happens now?" he asked, his voice steady but edged with vulnerability. The officer took a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling on his shoulders. "We'll be filing a report on this incident," he began, looking at the manager. "But I think it's important to also address the issues that led to this misunderstanding. Everyone here deserves to be treated with respect, regardless of their background." The manager nodded slowly, understanding the implications of what was happening. I'm sorry. I should have listened, and I should have handled this differently." The sincerity in his voice felt like a turning point, an acknowledgement that could lead to something greater. Just as the room began to settle into a sense of resolution, the final twist came crashing in like a sudden storm. The young teen's old teacher, still standing at the forefront, turned to him, her expression earnest. "You need to know something," she said, her voice tinged with urgency. "I've been working on a program to help at-risk youth in our community, and I want you to be a part of it. Your voice matters, and we need to share your story to inspire others." The young teen felt his breath catch in his throat, the weight of her offer sinking in. This was more than he had ever imagined, an opportunity to advocate for change and make a real impact. The path ahead suddenly felt illuminated, filled with possibilities he hadn't dared to dream. But the atmosphere shifted once more when the manager, still visibly shaken, looked at the young teen and said, "If you're willing to share your story, I'll do everything I can to support you. I want to make things right, not just for you, but for everyone who feels marginalized in our community." The young teen's heart raced as the realization washed over him this could lead to real change. But just as hope surged within him, the final unexpected twist unfurled. From the back of the crowd, a figure stepped forward, another patron, their expression grave. "You all need to hear this," they said, voice trembling. "I'm not just a bystander. I was there the night everything happened, and I know the truth about what went down." The tension soared again as everyone turned to face this new player in the story. The young teen felt the ground shift beneath him, the uncertainty of the moment hanging thick in the air. The truth was far from settled, and just when he thought he could finally find peace, another chapter was about to unfold, one that could redefine everything they had fought for that night. As the crowd braced itself for what was to come, the young teen knew that the journey was far from over. The fight for justice and understanding had only just begun, and with each twist and turn, they were one step closer to uncovering the heart of the matter, a revelation that would leave everyone breathless and waiting for the next act in this unfolding saga. The atmosphere in the restaurant shifted once again as the figure from the back stepped into the light. There was an intensity in their eyes that captured everyone's attention. The young teen felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Who was this person? And what truth did they hold? "I'm sorry to interrupt," the patron said, their voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "But I witnessed what happened the night this young man was wrongfully accused. It's important that everyone hears this." The crowd hushed, all eyes focused on this unexpected witness. The young teen's heart raced as he realized the potential of this moment. Was it possible that the truth could finally be revealed? The patron continued, "I was seated near the counter when everything unfolded. I saw the manager talking to someone who was clearly agitated, someone who didn't want to pay their bill. That person pointed at him, and in that instant, the manager decided to take action without thinking." Gasps rippled through the crowd, and the young teen felt his stomach twist. It was confirmation of everything he had sensed. The manager had reacted out of fear and impulse, but this was a crucial detail that could change the entire narrative. He didn't just accuse him for no reason, the patron explained. He was scared that his business would suffer. I could see it in his eyes. But that doesn't excuse what happened next. When he called security, I knew it was wrong. I wish I had said something then. The young teen felt a surge of emotion. This stranger's testimony was crucial. It not only supported his experience, but also highlighted the broader issue of how fear could lead to misjudgment and harmful actions. The lead officer took a step closer. "This is vital information. We need to include this in our report," he said, a look of determination crossing his face. "It's time we hold everyone accountable, not just the manager." The manager, who'd been silent, finally spoke up. "I can't deny what I did. I reacted in a way I'm not proud of. I'm sorry for the pain I caused," he said, his voice trembling. "I let my fear dictate my actions. I should have known better." The patron nodded, acknowledging the manager's admission. "We've all made mistakes, but it's what we do next that matters," they replied, their tone resolute. "It's time for change, not just for you, but for everyone in this community. We need to stand together against these kinds of injustices." The young teen felt a sense of relief wash over him. Finally, the pieces were coming together. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about the community learning from this experience. It was about forging a path forward. As the conversation continued, more patrons began to share their perspectives. One woman spoke about how she had felt judged in similar situations. Another man recounted a time when he had been wrongly accused, showing just how universal the fear and misunderstandings could be. The dialogue turned into a small gathering of understanding and healing, a moment where the restaurant became a forum for sharing experiences and pushing for change. "Maybe we can organize a community meeting," the young teen's teacher suggested. "We need to create a platform where voices can be heard, where we can discuss these issues openly and work towards solutions." The idea sparked excitement among the patrons. One by one, they nodded in agreement, feeling empowered to take action. The manager even offered the restaurant as a venue, promising to host regular discussions to foster understanding and awareness. "This is how we begin to change things," the young teen said, feeling a sense of purpose. "By sharing our stories and supporting each other, we can create a space where everyone feels safe and respected." The manager, visibly moved, added, "I'll commit to making this a safe space for everyone. I want to learn from my mistakes and do better." The crowd erupted in applause, a mix of relief and hope permeating the room. It was a turning point, a moment where everyone present felt they were part of something bigger. They were standing against prejudice and standing up for each other. The young teen, buoyed by the support and camaraderie in the room, felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He could finally envision a future where stories like his wouldn't go unheard, where people would come together to uplift and empower one another. As the evening wore on, conversations flowed freely. Some patrons exchanged contact information, eager to stay connected and continue the dialogue beyond the restaurant walls. The air buzzed with possibility, and the young teen couldn't help but smile. When he stepped outside later, he felt the cool night air on his face, invigorating him. His friends gathered around him, their expressions a mix of excitement and relief. "We did it!" one exclaimed, his voice full of energy. "We really did it." The young teen nodded, a sense of pride swelling within him. They had confronted fear, challenged injustice, and sparked a movement that had the potential to grow. "Let's keep this going," he said, his voice steady. "We can create a ripple effect, reaching even more people. This isn't just about us, it's about everyone who's ever felt marginalized or afraid." With that, they made plans to meet again, to strategize on how to spread their message further. The young teen felt a renewed sense of purpose, and for the first time in a long time, he felt empowered. In the following weeks, the community meetings gained traction. More and more people attended, each with their own stories of struggle and resilience. The young teen found himself at the center of these discussions, sharing his experience and listening to others. The manager became an unexpected ally, actively participating and demonstrating his commitment to change. He even invited guest speakers, community leaders, activists, and even former police officers who shared their perspectives on race, bias, and justice. Together, they began to dismantle the walls of fear and misunderstanding that had once divided them. The young teen watched as friendships formed and bonds deepened, a testament to the power of shared stories and empathy. As the months passed, the restaurant transformed from a place of conflict to a sanctuary for dialogue. People began to come together, not just to eat, but to learn and grow. It became a space where everyone felt valued, where voices that had once been silenced could finally be heard.